All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Into the Lion's Den with your co-hosts for today, Mr. JD Stevens and Christian Griffith, brought to you proudly by Pride Roofing and Constructions and Level Creative Studios.
No. I thought you were going to hit me with the nickname like the contrarian or some shit this week.
No, I don't want to bring people into that other conversation. I don't want to look at you negatively, JD. I like you. We cut everything from before I just announced this video because we were talking about politics and we're going to stay out of that thing. So
yeah, we're not experts in that realm, so we're just going to leave it alone.
Definitely not. Definitely would love it if we could all figure out how to work together so that the country were prosperous. But
don't they teach us that in kindergarten?
I think so. Right? I think that's one of the first things that you learn is how to engage with somebody without slapping them or pulling their hair.
Polite discourse? It's a thing I miss.
But anyways, today we're going to talk about a topic that's relevant to mainly me right now, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail. I am currently suffering from, I'm not exactly sure what term I'd put on it, but
goo brain.
Goo brain. Yeah, goo brain. I feel like I'm stuck in mud, and it's not just my feet, it's my whole body, and all the different mechanics of my brain are just kind of sluggish, slow, and I'm not seeing the future the way that I used to see the future. So
you can see the future? Wow.
So we wanted to talk about this a little bit and the importance of finding ways, even when you are having goo brain, of understanding your role as a leader and knowing what effect that your presence is going to have on the people around you, so that you can stay focused on your goal, you can stay pushing towards your mission, you can keep rowing in that boat, all the while managing the struggles inside of your own head. So, JD, how do you think we should talk about this?
So, right now it's not so much about like potentially checking things at the door, because that's a thing that people need to be better about also. Mm-hmm. This is more about leaders manufacturing motivation even when they're struggling, of how do I not let my outward or internal wow, that's
struggers. You having some internal struggers right now, JD?
Words are hard. Anyway, not letting their internal struggles dominate what's going on and affect the mood, feeling, energy that they put out to the team, because we've seen how even just a team member coming in and having a laundry list of frustrations that ultimately are pretty meaningless completely derails a day. So how much more is a leader that's potentially in a, anyone in a position of leadership, if you come in and you're just an absolute dink.
You calling me a dink, bro?
I'm not calling you a dink.
Yeah.
Or like comes in and just like, I haven't slept or whatever it is, of, their attitude, mood, feeling, general demeanor can totally destroy an environment. Sure unintentionally.
Sure, it sure can. It's not just a leader, right? But it's compounded as a leader. So if you break it down to, it's like, some statistics. Now, these are not perfect statistics. I didn't research these. I've just learned these over time. But there's power in certain types of things, right? So it's been said, I think it's 8,000. It might not be 8,000, so don't roast me on a fire, right, with a spigot shoved somewhere. But anyways... anyways, a smile can affect up to 8,000 people, right? Carrying around a smile in one day, because a smile is contagious, right? So if you have a smile, and this is common layperson, right? The smile can be contagious to the people who view the smile and see your aura and absorb some of your energy. It doesn't even have to be a long-term thing. It could be you walk past them on the street and you actually acknowledge them and you smile, right? That can change somebody's outlook. That can change something that happens in their day for the positive just by that action, right? So if you can affect up to 8,000 people with a smile, how many people you're affecting with that frown, right? And on top of that, there's also other studies that have been shown where they're kind of researching work environments that have high producers, right? So a high producer, if they are, you know, if people producers are in the midst of a high producer, by insto facto, they can't really they can't really determine exactly how this happens, but there's an engagement and excitement that has to do with being in the presence of the high producer. So work speeds of people in near this producer, right? Maybe they're, I don't know, their cubicle is next to the other person, or maybe they share a conference room, or maybe it's a bullpen where the salespeople all hang out and they're around this producer. But being around this high producer, high performing type of individual can increase their work performance by up to 8%. It's a pretty big number.
That's
Compounded across the team, there's a lot of extra productivity and ultimately a lot of revenue that's generated that way. Contrary to that, people who are low producers amidst a high producing team have the same but opposite effect, right? Low producers can drag the team down by something between that 8 to 12% mark, right? Just by being in the midst of people. So the aura, the energy, whatever you want to call it, those things can be mimicked, they can be absorbed, they can be 100% taken and run with in some way, shape, or form. Now, we said that's just common everyday things that happen. We don't know that this is happening, but as humans, we're connected in different ways that we really don't understand physiologically, right? But a leader, somebody that people look to for advice, for confidence, for vision, for additional focus. Sometimes it's just an attaboy or whatever. They're coming in and they are the sourpuss. They are the one that can't lead the charge. They seem to be indecisive. They seem to be whatever. Instantaneously, it just breaks down the fabric of the entire organization, or the people at least that are affected by it. Because if they're not confident in their leader, because their leader doesn't seem to be confident in themselves, they start to backtrack, right? They start to think about the negatives rather than the positives. They focus on other things that are outside of whatever the normal work path was, because things all of a sudden changed inside the environment. Homeostasis is off, and homeostasis has to balance itself eventually, right? That's just the nature of life.
Yep.
And so the leader themselves, and what you mentioned at the beginning, you have to come up with ways either to manufacture that motivation, or you have to fix that problem, and you have to fix it quick, because you need to be on point as much as humanly possible, when and if possible, especially in the eye shot of the other people, right?
You see how quickly it can degrade a team when you don't. I caught myself in this just the other day of, I was frustrated with something of, I think it was a day that it felt like I couldn't get like 5 minutes without an interruption. And when you have a lot going on, especially, like there's times when interruptions, it's like whatever. But when there's a lot of things going on, you're feeling those. I felt my frustration creep up, and I didn't realize it until the moment where it was just like someone was trying to ask a question and understand, and it was just like I was short with them, because it was the way the question was phrased was very much telling me how to do my job, which I respond to negatively generally. But I was already frustrated, so I was even more short with this person of like, can't happen. Of ultimately this, and I've had this thought, so I'm just going to be totally transparent on it, of like, ultimately this is your problem. And right now you're trying to find a way to subvert the problem rather than have a direct conversation with someone. And I'm not interested in being part of it right now, because you're asking me to add a bunch of work to my plate to help you do something that ultimately, if you had a short conversation with someone and was honest, it would be resolved. But it's a bunch of extra work for me. So I was short, and I was just like, can't happen. I walked off. But then I was frustrated. I was already frustrated, and then just even more so. And so that is going to have a negative effect, the same way that someone coming in completely like muddied, like you've been filling, of it just doesn't feel like I can get anything to fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
Like all I'm doing right now is spinning my tires.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm making the right calls, but I don't feel like we're getting any traction.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to wear on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to carry it, and you start to feel more and more worn down, even though, because your body has physiological responses to emotional responses.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to appear, depending on how you're sitting at your desk, because people are very observant, even if they're the least observant person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you sit at your desk, if there's someone that interacts with you on a semi-routinely basis, people know of like, this is how that person sits at their desk typically.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be something that feels imperceivable to you, but it's just like, you're normally the person that has very good posture and sitting, and you're leaned over doing one of these numbers
Mm-hmm.
and typing away,
rubbing your face,
or
grabbing your head like you have this never ending headache, or whatever.
Yeah, people pick up on that,
Mm-hmm.
even if, like you said, it doesn't seem like it would be something to you. It feels imperceptive, but to those people around, it's just like, he is off.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about finding those things that can help turn it off, or like temporarily change your mindset while you're in an on position. I'm speaking specifically from a leader of like, I need to be on right now, because there's times when you can be on and times you can be off. Mm-hmm. So like right now I need to be on, and I need to figure out how to do that. The way I do it, because I struggle with this particular like manufacturing motivation, because I don't even like the word. I think you guys talked about it on a podcast, the word motivation, because motivation is ever elusive.
Mm-hmm. It's fickle.
Hey, that's a word I used earlier. So it's about finding ways to keep yourself involved. And music has always been the way that I do that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a playlist called, I've got like 4 or 5, but I think the one that I'm thinking of is called either Bump or Mountain. It's called Mountain because it was the one I was going to use when I was snowboarding.
Mm-hmm.
But it just has a whole series of songs, and I have a whole series of songs. Nathaniel Rateliff's SOB is one of those songs that I can just put on when I'm in a crappy mood. And for whatever reason, it's just, I don't know if it's the dopamine release or the upbeat tempo, whatever it is, it just, so I've got a whole series of those songs depending on mood, that can turn it around for me, and help me manufacture that. Like, okay, I need to be on, I need to get my head right. I need to focus up. And everyone has this thing. Some people it's journaling. I've never been great at journaling because I'm like, I'm just supposed to put words on a page, but I've just never been good with words. So it's not one of those things of like, I'm going to write down how I'm feeling and feel better. It doesn't work for me that way for whatever reason. I believe it's incredibly powerful if you know how to do it. It's just, I feel silly.
Yeah.
But there's something. The other thing I do, I've gotten lots of strange looks because people have seen me do in the parking lot. I'll go out into the parking lot and stand and just close my eyes and look up at the sun.
You staring at the sun?
Like with my eyes closed. But
like damn, dude.
Just like this.
Yeah.
Just feeling the heat from the sun. Even on a cold day, you can do this.
Yeah.
And it just...
But it's funny you say that specifically. I wanted to like pivot into this and how do we manufacture, or how do we course correct? How do we get rid of it? Actually, our office manager told me earlier today, she was joking, but she said, Christian, I quit. And I laughed because I knew she wasn't serious. I was like, what's going on? And she's like, it's just the worst day ever. And I was like, what have you done to correct it? And she's like, nothing. I just keep working. And I was like, okay, so maybe we should do something different. I told her, it's cold outside. Why don't you go outside for a minute, get yourself frozen, and then walk back in and tell me that your mindset hasn't changed a little bit, right? Sometimes it takes just something like that. But I'll do that. I'll do that in mornings when I wake up and I'm in an off mood. I'll literally walk outside in my underwear. Hopefully my neighbors aren't watching me. And I'll wait until I am frigid cold. And then I'll go back inside, and all of a sudden I can't even remember why I was out there in the first place, right? So there's things you can do that can course correct yourself. But you have to self-analyze enough and understand, I'm off. It shouldn't be something where somebody has to tell you. It's like, I'm off. Now, what can we do about it, right? Music does that for me. Yesterday, I've got a good story about this. I was in a weird headspace around the middle of the day, and I took Billy out, and we were about to go meet the guys in the field, and we're going to help them sell. And I was like, dude, I got to change something because I'm not helping anybody whatsoever. So I turned on Mac Miller and Smile Back, and we cranked it up. We are both jamming, and by the time we got to the field, I forgot that I had any problems whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's self-analysis and reflection, and you have to be really diligent. You have to be on purpose with this. If you're in any form of leadership position, you walk in with a bad mood, that bad mood's going to be spread elsewhere, right? You walk in and it's like you're confused, then nobody believes the vision any longer. Right. And it can be it's something you could be working on for months and months or even years. And all of a sudden you just pull away at that thread at the bottom and the whole thing just dissolves. Right. And so what other things do you do that help you course correct when you're in these types of positions?
We laugh about it, but sometimes your employees, but also sometimes you just have to have an honest conversation with, like, don't bitch down. That's my little HR point here. Go to a person that's the same level of you or above you that you can have honest conversations with. And sometimes you just need to say something stupid. Like, you're frustrated and you just need to get it out, and, behind closed doors, and you got to say the thing that's frustrating you, and just be totally truthful about it, even if it's not something that, like, it's an employee that is more capable or something like that. Of, like, sometimes it's that, and you just need to go and be like, this person is dumb. It's not true. That they're more capable than they are, but in this moment, that's the only thing you can think, and you just need to get it off your chest. Sometimes you just need to vent. And you need to vent to someone who understands, because, like, you can vent to your significant other, but they don't know who this person is.
Yeah. There has to be some form of understanding. Yeah. It's like we work together in this small knit area, and I'm glad you said don't bitch down. That's a really, really good way to create toxic work environments.
Correct.
So you're going to vent. Venting is very valuable. If you don't vent, pressure builds. Pressure inside a contained space is not a good thing if there's too much of it.
One of us won an award for it one year.
Trying not to explode award, yeah.
Because
you didn't like that award. I knew it when I gave it
was
to
a
you.
thing.
Yeah.
It was good. It was all in good fun, but it was also a reflection point, which is sometimes those are the things you need.
Yeah.
Of, like, it only happened a couple of times, but the 2 times that it did happen, it was egregious. Of, like, I get the point you were trying to make, but probably not the way to make the point you were trying to make. Of, like, one of them, it was a disrespect thing. It was an insubordination situation. And it was just this perpetual working while we're in a meeting instead of paying attention to what we're doing. And I flipped out.
Slammed the laptop.
I slammed the laptop down and got a little bit ignorant with him. And
but let's talk about that, though, right? So we didn't have whatever pivot before this particular explosion. The pressure built up. There was no venting before that. Whatever. You had not prepared yourself to have this insubordination and this ass bag doing this ass bag thing in front of you, right? But what were the repercussions of that? What did it do for you?
I looked like a total dickhead.
Okay, so you look like a total dickhead in that meeting, but what do you think carried after the meeting until it didn't carry any longer? Because, things change.
Nothing. Nothing carried over. It lasted for that meeting, but nothing else carried over. But the thing that did carry over was, like, yo, be careful. JD will flip out.
So maybe you're not trusted with small problems for that point forward for a little while, until people realize that maybe it was just a bad day.
Yeah.
Right. But that can affect things in an organization. Communication is key. And if people stop communicating because they don't think they can communicate with you because some kind of bad thing is going to happen, well, the head's communicating to the rest of the body, but the leg's not working, and therefore the whole thing falls over and we crack the head open, right? That's a thing.
It is a thing. And it was a thing that it made me, I don't remember what position I was in at that time, but I know that it was similar to what I'm doing now. And it was a little bit isolating there for a little bit because everyone was just kind of like, what's going on with him?
Yeah.
Like, he's normally so calm, or I'm not calm at all. But I handle it better than that 90% of the time. But one instance completely derailed me for like 6 months. And it wasn't one, it was two in back. It was two fairly close together.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a healthy outlet. I didn't have a way to vent off the pressure, change my mindset, any of those things. I wasn't doing those things, which made me erupt. Everyone has little things that bug them.
Yep.
We all have idiosyncrasies. So there's going to be little things that bug you. So instead of it being a little thing that bugs you forever until you finally are a total jerk about it when you correct it, how about you just have the conversation?
Yep.
Yo, you're great. Please don't do this. Not because it's wrong, but because for whatever reason, it sets me off.
Yeah.
And I don't want to set off.
That's just effective relationship communication, right? Let's teach each other how to treat each other, right? So we've talked a little bit about outlets or mindset shifting, right? So finding ways to access parts of yourself, right? Through music, through journaling, through whatever, right? So you can just kind of change what level your brain's on at that point in time. We've talked about venting, get rid of pressure. Separating yourself is a very valuable tool as well. And I used this week, actually. There was a point during one of the days where I had about 2 hours left worth of work, but I had a direct conversation with myself, and I knew that I was no good for anybody in that particular position. In fact, if I would have stayed doing the things and engaging with the people, I probably would have had a much more dramatic effect in a negative way with all those people. So what I did was I challenged myself to utilize my delegation tools. I asked for some assistance so that I could backfill myself. And I separated myself, and I did something that would pull me into the right mindset. I went and I exercised. Right. I know that and that's just something, maybe it's not that way for everybody, but I know that if I'm inside of a gym, that what I'm doing is rigorous enough that it's going to force me to think about one thing and one thing only. And while I'm only allowing one thought process, I'm building endorphins, and I know I'm doing something positive for myself. Right. But isolation or not isolation, but separation for a small period of time actually had a much more positive effect on the day. Right. The person I asked to go in and assist and be in my place ended up leading the guys into a lot of new opportunities that evening. Everybody was happy. Everybody came in with a good mindset the next day. Had I been there, those opportunities would have been gone. And the next day, everybody would have come in with low key and probably questioning whether they want to stay in this business or not. Just being frank, that's exactly what they would have done. Right.
And you have to know yourself. Sometimes you have to tag yourself out. Sometimes you just have to find that person like, yo, I need you to tag in. I can't handle this of like, tag in for me of like, and so we both talked about music. We talked about journaling, and then yours was exercise. Do you have any others of like things that you do that can help shift the mindset?
Yes. So I have a pretty chaotic life. Right. So I run this business, and there's 28 employees, something like that. 29.
26, and we brought on 2 since I looked last. So 28.
Okay, so we have 28 employees. That's a pretty daunting thought process or thought that's in the back of your head all the time is the obligation, the payroll obligation, and just how many people it affects if I start making poor choices, right? So 28 people. And then I have my other full-time job at home where I have 3 young kids and a wife who, I have to serve and I have to be there for and I have to protect and I have to do all of these things, right? So there's not a lot of time to myself, right? My days generally start, depending on what time of the season it is, call it 6 o'clock in the morning, and it is full to the brim with things that I'm doing for other people until probably 10 or 10:30 at night, every single day. There's not really a piece in there where it's just me doing me, right? And so sometimes I'll allow myself to check out in silence. Silence helps me a lot because I don't get silence. So I'll drive with the windows down and absolutely nothing on the radio, and I'll let the cool breeze hit my face, and I'll have nothing in my ear, and I'll purposely turn off my phone. I'll put it on silent so that any calls that came in, I can deal with them in about 5 minutes after I've reset myself. I will do that semi-regularly. Right? And I could be that weirdo, but I don't know. I'm letting the wind go through my hair, and there's absolutely no music bumping, and I have a smile on my face because all of a sudden I just have a second of serenity, or whatever you want to call it.
I do too.
Right? So I'll do that pretty regularly. Sometimes it can, that separation idea that I was talking about before, sometimes that needs to be a little bit more than that. On this particular day that I was mentioning, I only needed 2 hours. 2 hours is all I needed, but sometimes you need more than that. Maybe you need 2 days. Maybe you need 2 weeks, right? Vacations. There's a reason that, employee labor laws exist, and work-life balances are basically forced into organizations, because if you overwork people and they don't have time to separate themselves, bad things happen, right? And so use your PTO days to your advantage, right? If you want to go on a trip somewhere, make sure you go on that trip. Make sure you shut off the phones, you set up the auto email replies, you change your voicemail, and you tell everybody what to expect from you, which is nothing until you're back. And sometimes you need that, right? So there's those. Other things that I will do is, when I get into a really weird season of life, I'll wake up extra early and I'll do devotionals in the morning, because I'll do devotionals with the kids on the way to school. But sometimes I just need a little extra JC in my life, and so I'll wake up early and I'll either listen to Audible or read my Bible, and I'll write down what I've learned that day, and then throughout the day I'll reread the scripture and that kind of stuff, and that tends to bring me back into a positive place. So now, not everybody's, I guess, a Christian or religious in that sense, but there are probably things that you could do in your life that are similar to that. Maybe it's just affirmations. Maybe in the morning has to have some affirmations where you tell yourself who you are instead of letting the thoughts tell you something different.
That's where a lot of people do meditation, and it's actually something I've found incredibly powerful that I started doing recently. I was having, I wouldn't call them panic or anxiety, but I was stressed and I was really struggling. And so I found that if I took 5 minutes, I turned off all the lights. I did a couple times here. I turned off all the lights in my office. I sat on the floor with my legs crossed, back against the.
I'm making fun of it. I'm not purposely making fun of it. I think I would have been great to see. I've been like, all right, JD, good on you.
And then I put on a guided thing for breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I took 5 minutes because proper breathing, if you do some of those techniques, it's like the equivalent of taking a 2-hour nap and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and I did those things, and it was incredible how much of a difference just physiologically, because I was having physiological symptoms like anxiety or what I've been told an anxiety or a panic attack feels like, just to a very small degree. I'm not going to take away from the people that actually struggle with that, but I was having similar type feelings. And so I just sat down and did that, and it's crazy what, I think I did 5 minutes one day and 10 minutes another day. And when you do that, specifically with the lights off and like close your eyes, focus on that. And the only thing you're allowing to go through is the thought on focusing on the breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like thoughts are going to come, you just push them away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just focus back on the breathing, and it's incredibly powerful. And I found that that's something that I really enjoy.
I agree with that. I haven't done a lot of meditation since my good old days in rehab, but it did help in incredible amounts. But yeah, I mean, Wim Hof is not an absolute just phenom for no reason. The guy has mastered the art of breathing, the art of controlling your mind and your mindset. So,
have you ever done it? Wim Hof, like the technique?
I've tried. Yeah.
Holy Toledo.
Pretty hard stuff.
That band was impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can climb Mount Everest in shorts and no shoes, you're doing something.
Yeah.
So
I did the guided breathings a couple times from him, and it's like you feel weird. Yeah. You just feel you have to lay down.
I am a new person. Yeah.
Well, you feel awful initially.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess the last tidbit of information to kind of put in here, I guess we've talked about some outlets and the other things, but one of the things that you can do for yourself is just create positive feedback loops, create situations for wins for yourself. And that could be as simple as your task list. I always write down at the beginning of my day, my task list. I cross as many things off as I can, but I'll reorganize my day so that I can tackle some of those tasks quickly and get some wins early on in the day. Those are things that I'll do regularly. It's like, it looks daunting when you got 27 things with unchecked boxes, but you crush out 15 of those over the course of an hour. That positivity starts to actually influence everything else, and everything else becomes much easier and back to that natural state that you're normally at. So creating positive feedback loops will not only create that excitement inside yourself, but it'll change your mindset from that glass half full to glass half or half empty to half full. Right. And that's generally what happens when a leader walks into an organization. If they're walking in the glass half full, type of mood and mindset and whatever, everybody looks at it and they absorb that. And then the problems, because there's always problems. Business always has problems. It doesn't matter if it's a 100-year-old business or a 1-year-old business. There are always new problems that arise. For what reason? Well, probably just because humans are chaotic in general, right?
Yeah.
And so they're always going to be there. But if you're in the glass half full or whatever, that positive, aspiring or inspiring, motivating, like thought process, they come to you and you take them as the challenge that they are, and you want to win in those situations. Instead, because they're always going to be there. Let's say everybody has 5 different problems they have to deal with on any given day. But if you're in the wrong mindset, one problem seeming unsurmountable, and then you're just absolutely wanting to avoid the next problem, and you're drawing further and further away, and you're creating more and more friction inside yourself. And you look at all of them as though they're just such huge obstacles, when really you've done. How long have you been in this job, JD? 3-4 years?
4 years and a few months.
Okay, so let's just call it 4 for easier math, and let's pretend that every year is only 350 days and 300 instead of 365, because I can't do math that fast. But you're looking at 1,400 days, right, with 5 problems at least per day. And you crushed all those other ones for the last 4 years and a couple of months, right? These new 5 ones shouldn't be a daunting thing. But if you're in the wrong mindset, it's like the world is burning down and everything sucks and fuck everybody, right? And it's not them, it's you. You haven't reset yourself. You know what I mean? And so we got to create those positive feedback loops, and we've got to create some form of self-analysis and have some good people around you, right? Some of the stuff I was doing this week when I was stuck in the mud, I didn't realize I was doing. You mentioned it. You're like, I didn't know my position. I was sitting at my desk was different. I didn't know the way I was carrying my body was different, right? I was in my head and I wasn't yet self-reflecting on this, and I had to be approached by good people. And all of a sudden I started thinking about it. I was like, damn, I'm not helping anybody. I not only am pissed off and mad and almost hating myself because I can't find my solutions in my head and my dominoes are not falling in fucking line right now, but everybody else is now worried about me, and they're thinking the world's about to blow up. This world we've created is about to break in. And it has nothing to do with how successful we are. All it has to do with me right now is that my brain is just not working the way that I want it to, and I'm not seeing all the steps, right? But because I'm in a leadership position, it has an incredible compounded, absolute huge ripple. It's like, normally that might be a pebble in the water, but I just threw a fucking boulder in this lake, and these ripples are going for a long time, right? You got to understand that as a leader, you have impact.
Well, and not only as a leader, but as the top position.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the effect compounds with the level of leadership that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So as you hit those of, a shift lead having a crappy attitude is only going to have so much of an effect. It's going to affect the 3 or 4 people they're in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
A GM having a crappy day is going to affect everybody potentially underneath them.
And it's not only going to affect them, then it's going to carry on when they go home. That's going to affect their family members, and then it's going to come back and be repeated in the opposite, right? It's going to be funneled back up. All the problems are going to be funneled back up. It's just it's chaos. You just created chaos. So understand you have influence if you're sitting in a leadership position. You have influence whether you like it or not, in every situation or not. People are watching. So do what you need to self-reflect and find the outlets, right? This weekend, I have to do some things to find some outlets for myself so that I don't repeat any of the errors that I made this week. I know I have to do that work.
Motorcycle.
I'm getting out and riding, baby. Well, so we'll see what,
It's supposed to be 60 on Sunday.
I hope so. Need some wind in my hair. Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. So, all right. You have any other thoughts towards this idea?
I don't have anything else. I think that we've covered this one pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I guess that concludes it for this episode of Into the Lion's Den. If anybody has any questions or thoughts, maybe you have a cool story about how you triumphed over your mental fuckery.
Or the solutions that you've developed for yourself that help.
Some more outlets. We talked about venting and music and this and that and separation, but you got another idea that can help us. We'd love it. Please put that in the comments below. Give us your input, because generally we're just spitting information at you, but we're not perfect, and I definitely haven't mastered the world, and I don't think you have either, JD. So
not even sort
we're
of.
just out here trying to be better every single day, and we'd appreciate all the feedback. So as always, like and subscribe, engage in the content, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Into the Lion's Den. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you've gathered enough ammunition to go out, fight the good fight, and become a better person every single day. Please like and subscribe, engage in our content, ask us some questions. We'd love to tailor fit the next episode to you.